All right, we are going to go ahead and get started with our May 2020 conference call. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it and appreciate everything that you're doing on behalf of CTE and ACTE in your states. So thank you so much for all your hard work. We greatly appreciate it. We have quite a few things we want to go over with you today. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in and turn it over to Leanne Wilson, our Executive Director, for our organizational update.
Well, hello, everyone. Just wanted to start by saying I hope everybody is doing well in this COVID environment. I know it's certainly been interesting and continues to be interesting for all of us. But certainly hope everybody is doing well. From an ACTE perspective, we're still all working from home and don't see that changing anytime in the near future. But we have been keeping in close contact with all of you, if not through the NEDA meetings, then just through normal outreach about how the state associations are doing with things such as their conferences. And so we've been trying to stay in very close contact, and we're monitoring the progress, so not only from an ACTE perspective, but from a national perspective regarding how all of you are doing with your events and how it's impacting all of the state associations. And you've heard me say many times we're only as good at the national level as our states are there at the ground level. So we truly want to continue to look after our state associations and provide as much support as possible. Also, I'd just say, you know, we're getting a lot of inquiries about whether we've made decisions about vision, whether it's going to be in person or virtual. So we're going to continue to monitor things over the next couple of months before we make that decision, just because information is changing so rapidly. And we want to make sure we make the best decision from both a financial aspect and certainly a legal liability aspect to make sure we can pull off a really safe event should we have it in person. We're also monitoring all of the CDC guidelines and all of those other fun things that all of us are watching very closely these days. Just to see what an event in Nashville would be able to look like this year. So again, things are changing so rapidly, and we're monitoring the hotel industry and all that fun stuff. And again, we won't be making any decisions about vision until probably the next 2 or 3 months. But certainly, we've appreciated all of the communication back and forth, and letting us know how you're doing and how it's impacting your operation. So I would just ask that you continue to do that so we can stay connected and make sure that we're providing any necessary support that we can. So with that, I think that provides my update. Lauren, I'm happy to take any questions if anybody has any.
Great, thanks so much, Leanne. Please feel free to utilize the chat box or to just unmute yourself if you have any questions for Leanne. Okay, I think we're good for right now, Leanne. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to swing it over to Jared Nagurka from our Public Policy Department to give us a legislative update. And later on, he's going to be doing a larger presentation for us. So for right now, this is just the legislative update. Thanks, Jared.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. So Jared Nagurka on the public policy team. So the Hill's been a bit busy recently. Most recently on Saturday, the House passed the HEROES Act, which was a $3 trillion legislative package, what would be the 5th phase of coronavirus relief. Included in that was a $90 billion stabilization fund for states. That money would be apportioned to governors, and governors would be able to use that money as they see fit. Included in the uses of funds for that would be anything that's allowable under Perkins. We were glad to see kind of $90 billion, but what was not included in there was previously the Democrats in the Senate and the House on the education committees had released the Relaunching America's Workforce Act, and that included $1 billion specifically for CTE, meaning that those funds would have to be spent on CTE, whereas in the stabilization fund, it could be spent on non-CTE purposes. So we're still pushing really hard to get that Relaunching America's Workforce Act through. Regarding the HEROES Act, it's really seen as being dead on arrival in the Senate. It was a party line vote pretty much in the House. So after the House voted on that, the House has now left town until the 27th or 28th, so really the end of the month. It's unlikely to see any Senate action until June, so we're kind of in a little bit of a holding pattern right now on coronavirus relief moving forward. But as advocates, we're still working hard to try to ensure that CTE is included in any future packages. Just a brief note, if you're in a state with a Senate appropriator, we might be reaching out over the next couple days or week or so to ask you to either specifically reach out to them or help us identify folks in your state to reach out to them. The appropriations process for kind of this 5th coronavirus relief package is really moving over to the Senate now that the House passed its bill. So we're going to be focusing on that. Other than that, everything else is kind of on hold related to HEA reauthorization and WIOA and everything else. Everything obviously is focused on coronavirus at the moment. And that's the update on coronavirus. Happy to answer any questions though. And as Lauren mentioned, I'll also be giving an advocacy resources presentation later on in the call.
Thanks so much, Jared. Anybody have any questions for Jared on any of these legislative issues?
This is Cindy. Jared, did you say the Senate won't take action on the HEROES until June?
They probably won't take action on the HEROES Act whatsoever.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, Senate Republicans have been very skeptical on that bill, so they'll probably come out with their own package. But Leader McConnell has been has essentially said that they won't take any action on a 5th coronavirus package until June.
Any other questions for Jared? All right. Thank you so much, Jared. We'll swing back to you in just a couple minutes. All right, I'm going to go over a couple of leadership and awards updates with you all really quickly before I pass it over to Julia, our Senior Director of Communications, to talk to you about some of our events and other programs that might be of interest to you. The first thing I wanted to highlight with you all is our Board of Directors election. It is open right now for nominations. So if you or anyone in your state association would be interested in running for a Board of Directors position, the deadline is June 15th. We are accepting applications through our awards portal, so please be sure to have those in by June 15th. We have also extended our deadline for 2 of our awards-related programs, for our Impact Awards, which are our business and industry awards, and then also for our Student Trophy Design Contest. So both of those are now June 30th. That is some extra time for you all to get those in this year. So if you have anyone in your state who you would like to recognize or any business that you would like to recognize, please be sure to get those in by June 30th. And likewise, if you know of a great program in your state a great program that designs these 3D engineering type of things, please feel free to get those in by June 30th and spread the word. It's a great program and opportunity to really highlight what our students in CTE are doing. So please take advantage of that. The CTE Learn offer has been extended until May 31st, so there's still a few more days to squeeze that in. So if this is online learning opportunity that would be of interest to your state, please contact Michael Connett on our staff and he can provide you with some more information, but there are several free modules available for you. So please take advantage of those before that window closes on May 31st. This is our last call before our summer break. So for June and July, we will not have our monthly state leaders call, but we will restart in August and then continue in September and October and then take a break for the holidays again. So we're so thrilled that you're with us today and hope that you enjoy your summer break, and we'll catch up with you again in August. In August, we'll do a review of our July board meeting as well as talk about some finance best practices. In September, we'll talk about financial controls with ACTE's auditor. And then in October, we'll talk about CTE month. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Julia O'Brien for our Programs and Communications update.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. If you hear noise in the background, it's because there is a massive storm going on right now. So I think there's a tornado warning in the area, so I apologize for that. This will be quick, but I just want to go through a couple of the resources that we are offering online right now, which you're probably aware of, but just want to direct you to them. We keep our COVID-19 page up to date, and that link can be accessed right off of our ACTE online website. And we have the information on the CTE Learn offer, and then just updated information on our various events as well. So just a good page to go to find all of the various COVID-19 related resources. And then as it relates to that, we also have a distance learning resource center page that can also be accessed from our homepage, off the homepage slider there. And our public policy staff really keeps that nicely up to date, and we filter everything through that staff, through the researcher, to make sure it's relevant and it's something that really would be of interest to the CTE community. And it's organized by industry sector or type of CTE offering. So we encourage you to check that out. We do keep it update. We update it weekly, really, with different resources that are coming in. And then we're in the 4th week of offering a lesson plan resource. And we're doing this in partnership with the California Department of Education, the San Diego County Office of Education, and CTE Online. And it's a really nice, just 2-page document that includes, page 2 is actually links to different lesson plan resources, actual lesson plans that's organized by industry sector. And then page 1 is a listing of events for the upcoming week and different webinars going on and just other relevant resources. So it's a really nice 2-page document, and we've been promoting that every week as well. And it can also be accessed from off of our home page. We also continue to promote, we did these ACTE division webinars about a month and a half ago, and we have all of those webinars archived. It's sort of promising practices in the time of COVID-19. So you can watch some of those webinars and hear perspectives from an industry specific perspective. And we're really ramping up the number of webinars we're offering. So just in the coming 2 weeks, I think we've got 3 or 4 scheduled, and we'll be promoting those this week. We're still actually finalizing times, but we'll be offering more of those, more online professional development throughout the summer. And then with that, Lauren had mentioned the CTE Learn offer. After the end of May, we'll be offering a 50% discount on all of the 150 plus courses in that catalog for the next 2 months, so through the end of July. So with so many events going, either being canceled or going virtual, which is another great option, we feel like this would be a good time to really promote the resources on CTE Learn. You can receive continuing education units and credit for, I think it's 4 hours for each course that you complete. So just a lot of good professional development in that online tool. And again, 50% off in June and July. And we started promoting that last week. We'll be ramping up our promotions of that as well this week. Sorry, I'm looking at my list here. And then just want to encourage you that we continue to have our resources at Shop ACTE and various publications there for you to peruse and potentially read. I also wanted to announce that we did extend our Career Tech Vision early bird rate until the end of August. So early bird rate is now valid through August 31st. Best practices is still scheduled for October and will, I think, still happen in October. And then, of course, you know about the Region 4 Leadership Conference. That is this Thursday. It is a one-day virtual event, and we're really excited that attendance at that event has doubled. So if you're still interested, there's like an hour left to register, but really if you're really interested in registering and you haven't, just to please let us know as soon as possible. So that is my update. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions for Julia? All right. Thank you, Julia. We appreciate everything you guys are doing. Thank you so much.
Lauren.
All right. During our state perception survey, one of the things that came up from you all was desire to hear more about the advocacy resources that ACTE offers. Advocacy is really one of the real values of ACTE, and we're so thankful for our public policy department and all the excellent resources that they provide for us. So Jared is going to provide a review of where you can locate some of those resources and what they are and how to utilize them. Thanks, Jared. I'm going to stop my screen share so you can share yours.
Okay, so here's the ACT homepage. And as Lauren mentioned, I'm just going to run through some of our resources. I know we have a lot here that hopefully will be useful both to you and to those folks that you work with who either already are advocates or would like to be advocates. So first off, on this homepage here, you can go ahead and just click advocacy, and then you'll see kind of the main breakouts. So I'm just going to go one by one and briefly recap what we have here. So the first thing is this CTE Policy Watch blog. This is the policy blog that anything policy CTE related at the federal level, we're going to update here. So there's a long blog to start, which is a running thread on the coronavirus, but then you'll get to our regular blogs. But the thing I wanted to call everyone's attention to is on the right side, you have categories here. And so we'll tag each of our blog posts with a specific category. So if you are interested in learning what the latest information around the Higher Education Act is, or around federal funding, you can click on one of these categories. So I just clicked on federal funding, and it'll pull up in a chronological order all of the most recent blogs that we've written about related to funding. And so, like, for example, we just published one on the House passing the HEROES Act. And so you can go ahead and just see what the latest information is in CTE related to that, whatever issue. So that's the CTE Policy Watch blog. The next thing I want to call attention to is our Action Center, which is that Take Action prompt. What this is we have identified kind of the most useful things that advocates could reach out to their members of Congress on. And so the most recent one here, for example, is asking Congress to support the Relaunching America's Workforce Act and the next coronavirus relief package. That's that $1 billion earmarked specifically for CTE. And so you can see a whole host of different letters and issues that we've come up with. But all you have to do, it's super easy. You click Take Action. I'm going to type in, this is ACT's address here. I just type in the address, and automatically it'll fill in my 2 US senators and my member of Congress for whatever that address is. You fill in your information, and then you can automatically send that email. So it really only takes 30 seconds, but it's a big help for us the more people we have reaching out to their members of Congress. So that's that Take Action prompt. Okay, so we'll go to the ACT policy agenda, and then we'll really get into the meat of it. So the ACTE policy agenda essentially recaps the main the main federal laws and issues that we're dealing with. So for example, the Higher Education Act right here, it provides a brief overview of the Higher Education Act, and then it includes our policy recommendations and then other resources that might be useful. Same thing for other federal laws. So the Workforce Investment Act, for instance, more information here. So this is really just intended to be a one-stop shop for the major federal policy issues that you can access and briefly review before any sort of meeting or anything like that. Okay, now, so advocacy resources. So this is where a lot of our information lies. The purpose of this page is really for whether you're a grizzled veteran when it comes to advocacy, or you're just really interested in getting started but don't really know where to start. It's meant to provide really a 101 basic information that will be useful, hopefully, to you and other CTE advocates. So I want to run through each of these briefly. So the first one is going to be visiting with policymakers. And essentially, and let me just back up and say that all of these, you don't need to sign in or anything else to access this on our website. And so we encourage you to share them with anybody that you want. So this video is essentially just a mock what a meeting with a member of Congress or their staff would look like. And then it provides a variety of useful tips, how you can contact folks, what you should do to prepare, different meeting strategies, those sorts of things. Next we have, and it's similar, calling our policymakers. This one features a video by yours truly, but again, essentially just walks you through what a phone call with staff for a member of Congress might look like, in hopes of really demystifying a process that I know can be intimidating and scary at times. Then we have some other resources here. So building relationships with policymakers. Again, this is intended to be for somebody who wants to really get involved in advocacy, but it doesn't necessarily have a lot of experience doing it. Just provides a bunch of different tips and resources and suggestions that we hope would be useful. Corresponding with policymakers, similar thing. I know it can be intimidating. Well, how do you even begin? How do you reach out to your members of Congress? What are the most effective ways to do so? All of those questions are answered here. Everything from, you know, what a header should look like for if you're mailing something to tips for what should be included in an email. One thing that we've found particularly effective is when programs host site visits for policymakers. Oftentimes when Congress is in session, members of Congress will really only be in DC for Monday through Thursday, and then they'll be in their district on Friday and then on the weekends. I know the weekends aren't necessarily conducive to doing site visits, nor, now that I think about it, is COVID. But once we move past all of that, hosting site visits it can be a really effective tool to help show off your specific programs. So this just provides some information on what things you might need to do and keep in mind, and the steps that you might want to take before you host those site visits. Testifying before policymakers, again, is going to give kind of best practices, you know, and this isn't just kind of your testifying before a U.S. Senate committee or something like that. Oftentimes school boards will have, or county boards or city council meetings will have the opportunity for constituents to come and speak for 60 seconds on a particular issue. This again is really really effective because you have a captive audience in front of you when they give you the mic. And so this offers some additional suggestions and guidelines for that. Social media advocacy, same thing. One of the easiest ways, particularly in these COVID times, to make your voice heard. So again, more information, different ACT pages and hashtags and resources listed on there. Congressional directory. So this is a resource within that Take Action page that we talked about earlier. And essentially, again, what you can do is you type in your address, and then it will pull up your elected officials. So if I wanted to contact Senator Mark Warner, for instance, I can click on Senator Mark Warner, and then it shows all of his offices and then the different contact information and then a brief little bio about the senator. Again, so more information here that allows you to find that contact information. The Congressional CTE Caucus. So just as background, there's a House CTE Caucus and a Senate CTE Caucus. Essentially, it is just a coalition of lawmakers who've decided to say CTE is really important. We want to raise awareness and attention about this issue. So you can find information on this House and Senate CTE Caucus, including links to the members of each caucus. And so if your senators or representative are not members of the CTE Caucus, we certainly encourage you to reach out to them and ask them to join. And there's actually a specific letter that you can do that with in that Take Action Center that we talked about. And then the last kind of section related to policy advocacy is our advocacy alerts. So it's really easy. You can just sign up here. The link is within this advocacy resources page. Every so often, we'll send out emails through like a legislative alert through that'll include a link to that Take Action Center that will ask you to send a letter to your member of Congress. We actually just sent one out today, and that's really helpful because it allows a rapid response. So we have upwards of 50,000 CTE advocates on that list, which is super great because we always get a lot of responses. But we're always looking for more. And so if you're not signed up for that or others aren't signed up for that, we certainly encourage you to do so. So the other part of advocacy is not just directly to policymakers, but also within the media. One of the reasons why this is important is because what the public narrative and public perceptions often shape policy actions. And so if there's a narrative in the local newspaper or in a community that CTE is really important, we continue to tackle the stigma that often is out there, then that could lead to more policy action at the local, state, and federal levels. And so we just have a couple of resources here for reaching out to the media is an important advocacy tool. If your program rolls out a new program, or your students are doing something really innovative, these are all good times, or you're hosting a site visit for a policymaker. These are all good times to reach out to the media. So this is a pretty extensive list on what to do, how you develop your distribution lists, what a press release is, guidelines for op-eds and letters to the editor, and all of that information. And so in addition to always being able to reach out to us at ACTE, this is a really good resource for that. Building community support. We know that it's really important to work with local business partners, other education stakeholders. And so this just gives some suggestions and guidelines and best practices for building those types of coalitions and partnerships. And then the last thing here, and I would caution you to take this one with a grain of salt. This is a media list where you can type in your zip code and find news outlets in your vicinity. So for example, I'll do one, and this tends to work in more rural areas better than urban areas, and I'll explain why in a second. So I typed in the zip code where ACTE is, and it pulls up a whole bunch of different news outlets. Some like Politico is a national outlet, but it's based in Arlington, so that's why it pulled up, not as useful. But something like the Sun Gazette, which I know is a local outlet in the area, that is useful in terms of identifying local papers. So this shouldn't be the totality of your outreach if you're looking to reach out to the media, but it's a good place to just double check to make sure that you've hit some of the places. So the last thing that I want to call your attention to is some of the publications that we have that should be useful for you when you're meeting with lawmakers or policymakers at all levels. So the first is Fact Sheets to Promote CTE. So we have this page, Basic Facts, that has a lot of CTE related information. The main ones is CTE Today and CTE Works. They include information like on enrollment, national statistics on how CTE improves outcomes, those sorts of things. All you have to do is click on it. We do ask, we want to know who's downloading information from our site. And so you just fill this out and then you'll immediately be able to download it. You don't need a password, there's no cost, anything like that. So there's a lot of resources here. The other one to look at is these sector sheets. So we have sector sheets on virtually every sector in the economy. And so what these basically highlight are career opportunities, what those careers might be, the type of education that you need to pursue those careers, that sort of information. If a policymaker is on a specific committee, so for example, if a policymaker is on the agriculture committee, I might download this sector sheet on agriculture, food, and natural resources to provide them some information on that. We also have state policy information. So if you're meeting with a governor or you're meeting with your senator or somebody, or even somebody who doesn't represent the whole state, you can go into these state profiles and there's this link for one-page PDFs of your state CTE system. So for example, say that you are from Missouri, you can click on Missouri right here and it will pop up, hopefully, yes, information on it gives examples of CTE programs in the state, information on how much Perkins funding the state received, and other statistics like that. It's a really good handout to be able to provide. Okay, and last thing Last thing here is the Business Leader's Guide to Advocacy. And so essentially what that is a tool that we developed recently that is something that you can provide to your business partners that really helps them understand. You know, oftentimes we hear from businesses, hey, we really want to be supportive of CTE. We need these programs to help provide the talent pipeline for our future workforce. But then they don't really know what they can do to help. And so this provides some steps that they can take to help support CTE in ways that doesn't just involve them, you know, sponsoring or providing money to programs or equipment or other things, ways that they can get involved in the policy aspect that might be useful. So that's a brief overview on our advocacy resources. I know that there was a lot there, but I just wanted to kind of make everyone aware of what resources we do have. I'm happy to answer questions, but also know that myself and the entire public policy team is always available should you have any questions or need more information. And so you can always, and you should always feel free to reach out to us. Any questions?
Not a question, Jared, but just a comment on that last piece about the business relationships.
Yes.
Very helpful piece now with Perkins and the CLNA work that everybody's having to do. I know even directors struggle with how do I connect with my industry partners.
Great, I'm glad to hear. And if there's anything else we can do in that regard, please obviously reach out and let us know and we can work on it.
Will do.
I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen here. And Lauren, I don't know if you want to take over.
Thanks, Jared. Does anybody else have any questions for Jared or perhaps success stories of how you've used some of these resources in your advocacy work in your state?
This is Sandy from Iowa, and we used Jared and ACTE to plan a really awesome media tour last year. It was our first one, and I just would encourage every state to go ahead and do that because it's kind of, I mean, you're taking some risk to begin with to say you're going to do it, but it was definitely worthwhile because we did get some really good press, and Jared helped a lot, and he has a lot of information. Just, you can tell, just he can talk about things, and he knows a lot about the policy. So that was a great advocate. Jared actually came on our media tour with us. So I would just encourage everyone to reach out to them and utilize their services.
Thanks, Sandy. Sandy and I had fun last year outside of a school at 6 o'clock in the morning when it was still dark, jumping on a morning radio show and lots of other things. So I had fun as well, Sandy. I appreciate you saying that.
Awesome story. Thanks, Sandy. Any other questions or things you want to share? All right. So with that, we are going to go ahead and end our May call early. Thank you all so much for joining us. We greatly appreciate all your time and, again, all the efforts that you guys are doing on behalf of your state members. So thank you so much, and we look forward to reconnecting with you in August. Be safe. Thanks. Bye.